Let's go forward then. Roman numeral 2, regression. You often hear that when people talk about regression, it's usually around the same time that they talk about correlation. Regression, you can actually, if you go to graduate school and you're in psychology, I actually had to take 2 whole semesters of just studying regression. Doesn't that sound like a lot of fun?
You should know it really well.
I should know it really well. I learned regression and how to do it really well, not when I was being taught, because the people who were teaching me were not so good, but when I actually had to do it myself, then I kind of figured out what the hell they were talking about. So doing is a good way. We're not going to go into a lot of detail here, but let me give you a little bit as far as what the purpose of regression is. The purpose of regression is prediction. People do regression for prediction's sake. If you're trying to predict something, you use regression. There are 2 types of regression that you need to know about, but only one we will cover in here. One type of regression is called simple linear regression. Now, Tara, how does the word simple linear sound to you?
Fantastic.
Simple linear regression. You have one predictor variable and one dependent variable. So in simple linear regression, you use one variable to predict another. The other type of regression that you spend semesters in graduate school on is called multiple regression. Multiple regression. And because Tara says we shouldn't cover this, we are not going to. Actually, other semesters we went a little bit into it. I find it kind of amusing. But then again, I'm a stats nerd. Okay, so multiple regression. What would your guess be for multiple regression? More than one predictor. In multiple regression, we have more than one predictor variable and just one DV, if you will. So we try to use a few things to predict one variable. Some examples would seem to be appropriate here. How about the example we just covered in the first unit here? Would we do simple linear regression on the BMI snoring thing, or would we do multiple regression? Be simple linear regression. Which would be the predictor variable? BMI, we would want to see, so BMI would be the predictor. The dependent variable would be snoring. What if I wanted to predict variables that could cause headaches in college students? What would be some variables that could cause headaches in college students? Content. So the topic at hand, would that be the only variable? Such as?
Hangovers.
Let's not get personal. So hangovers, the class, what else? Stress levels, time of day. If there were multiple variables that you wanted to predict something, then you'd be doing multiple regression.
Can you give me the BMI one again?
If it's BMI, if you're using BMI to predict snoring, that would be simple linear regression. BMI is the predictor, the DV is snoring frequency.
Can
Sorry.
these go both ways? The snoring is higher than you predict that they're going to be. I mean, do
You
they
could.
always go
Yeah,
both
you
ways?
could. I tried to pick that example because BMI might be predictive of snoring. It's more that way. Sometimes you could go, yeah, the other way as well. Let's say heart disease. Let's say you wanted to figure out who is going to have a heart attack. Are there any variables that might be useful there?
Wait.
So weight might be one variable that could predict heart disease. Anything else? Smoking, genetics, cholesterol. So if you were going to do the Framingham heart study, you would be doing simple linear regression or multiple regression? Multiple regression. There's a lot to learn with multiple regression. There are a lot of very advanced techniques for multiple regression. A lot of people really like to do regression because they're not interested in causality. They're interested in predicting behavior. In economics, they try to predict. In meteorology, they try to predict. A lot of people are trying to predict things. You can do multiple regression in psychology if you're using multiple predictor variables, if your DV is a continuous one. So in this class, on the last face-to-face week here, we're going to focus on simple linear regression. One variable to predict a second variable. And in this case, we've got our scatter plot here. We're going to try to do that, and we're going